You probably clicked on this video because you spent an hour staring at the ceiling last night, flawlessly winning an argument that has never happened and probably never will. Or maybe you're currently overanalyzing a completely normal phone call from 3 days ago, putting a 1.5-second awkward pause under a microscope, absolutely convinced that the slight shift in their breathing means they secretly hate you. If this sounds like your brain, take a deep breath. You are in the right place. Society loves to label this as just having anxiety or being neurotic. They tell you to just chill out and let things go. But what they don't understand is that your mind isn't a broken machine. It's a high-frequency antenna picking up signals everyone else is entirely deaf to. You aren't crazy for overanalyzing the room. Your brain is just processing the world in raw, unfiltered 8K, while everyone else is happily buffering in standard definition. Today, we're going to decode the real psychology behind why your mind refuses to shut down, and why this exhaustion is actually the price of a hidden superpower. When people notice you zoning out, staring into the abyss of your coffee cup, they usually offer the worst advice in human history. Just stop thinking about it, as if your brain is a simple radio you can just switch off. But neuroscientists have a much more accurate name for what's happening in your head. They call it the default mode network, or DMN. It's the brain's background system that activates the exact millisecond you stop focusing on an external task. For most people, the DMN is a quiet, peaceful waiting room. For you, it's a chaotic war room. But the real trap isn't the network itself, it's how your brain gets hijacked by a very specific glitch. The late psychologist Susan Nolen-Hoeksema spent years studying it and gave it a name: rumination. There is a massive difference between actually solving a problem and ruminating on one. Problem solving is doing the emotional laundry, folding it and putting it away. Rumination is your brain getting permanently stuck on the aggressive spin cycle. You aren't cleaning anything anymore. You are just aggressively tumbling the exact same negative emotion over and over. The fabric of your sanity is tearing apart, but the machine refuses to stop. Why? Because a deeply logical part of you is convinced that if you just spin it one more time, you'll magically find the solution. So why does your brain insist on keeping you hostage in this spin cycle? This is where the narrative completely changes. Overthinking is not a symptom of weakness. It is historically your greatest survival strategy. Take a hard look at your past. A massive percentage of people who think too much grew up in environments where unpredictability was implicitly dangerous. Maybe you had to constantly read the room to know what kind of mood someone was going to be in. Maybe you learned to identify the exact emotion attached to the sound of footsteps coming down the hallway. You couldn't just relax and exist. You had to become a human emotional thermostat. Your brain learned at a very young age that anticipating every single negative outcome was the only way to stay safe. It figured out that if it could map out 20 different disaster scenarios before breakfast, it wouldn't be caught off guard if one of them actually happened. Psychologically, this is a form of hypervigilance. Your overthinking isn't an anxiety disorder, it is a highly sophisticated military-grade early warning system. It was designed to protect you from being blindsided by pain, disappointment, or sudden rejection. You are not broken, you are brilliant, and your brain is executing a flawless defensive protocol. The only problem, the war is probably over. You are still walking around wearing heavy emotional armor, scanning the perimeter for threats that dissolved a decade ago. You are applying a life-saving survival skill to a harmless email from your coworker or a slightly ambiguous text from a friend. Your radar is working perfectly. It's just exhausting itself scanning an empty sky.
Now here is where things get genuinely maddening. Have you ever tried to force yourself to relax? It is an absolute joke. It's like trying to aggressively mandate world peace. When your well-meaning friends tell you to just stop worrying about it, they think they're throwing you a life preserver. Neurologically, they're handing you a live grenade. Take Franz Kafka. The man didn't just write about nightmarish bureaucratic labyrinths, he lived in one inside his own skull. He once described his mind as being completely defenseless against its own thoughts. He couldn't just close the doors of his brain. And science proves why trying to close those doors is a terrible idea. In the late 1980s, psychologist Daniel Wegner conducted what is now known as the white bear experiment. He gave participants a very simple, singular instruction: do not think about a white bear. The result? Their brains immediately flooded with white bears. It's called the ironic rebound effect. The very act of suppressing a thought requires your brain to actively monitor whether or not you are thinking about it, which guarantees that you are constantly thinking about it. So every time you aggressively tell yourself to just shut up and sleep, you are building a neurological pressure chamber. You aren't clearing your mind. You're just creating a massive debt of suppressed thoughts that will come crashing back into your consciousness at 3 a.m. with compounding interest.
This perfectly explains the most exhausting paradox of the overthinker: your complicated, borderline toxic relationship with rest. You constantly say you just want some peace and quiet, but the moment you actually sit down in a silent room without a phone or a task, panic sets in. Why? Because being busy is the only volume dial you have. Distraction is your shield. The second you remove the external noise, the massive internal backlog floods in. And notice the bizarre contradiction in how your brain processes choices. You can pick what to watch on Netflix or decide what to eat for dinner in exactly 4 seconds. You have absolutely zero problem making rapid-fire decisions about things your brain classifies as meaningless. But the moment a choice involves a relationship you value or a consequence that actually matters, your system stalls. It takes you 3 hours to draft a text message to someone you genuinely care about. This proves that your overthinking isn't just random static. It maps flawlessly onto your values. It knows exactly who you love, what you are terrified of losing, and who you desperately want to be seen as. Your anxiety is just your moral compass communicating its coordinates in the absolute worst way imaginable.
Here is the most honest truth you will hear today. You are probably never going to have a completely quiet mind, and honestly, chasing that silence is just adding another layer of exhaustion to your life. The goal isn't to smash your radar with a hammer. The goal is to finally walk into the control room, sit down at the panel, look at the flashing red lights, and say, I see what you were doing, I know exactly why you were doing it, and I am actively deciding to ignore you for the rest of the evening. Having a brain that processes the world in 8K is exhausting, yes, but it also means you love deeper, you understand people better, and you navigate the world with a level of empathy most people can't even fathom. You aren't broken, you are just highly calibrated. If this video made you feel a little less crazy and a little more understood, then welcome to the tribe. Hit that subscribe button because we decode the hidden architecture of your mind every single week. You are not alone in this.